Raise your hand if you have been told that credit cards are in case of an emergency, and always have a credit card in your wallet in case of an emergency, especially in college. Yep. That is one of my biggest pet peeves of money advice is that credit cards are in case of an emergency and always have one. No, 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 no. That is purely marketing from credit card companies. So here's a story from 9 years ago, I think it was, is I had two cats, Simba and Skylar. Still have Skylar. You guys know about Piper, but Skylar is, she's a little old, so she just kind of stays in the bedroom, doesn't come out much. But her litter mate, Simba, came home one day. We went to this place called Gumbo Limbo, and it's like a turtle nature sanctuary rehab place here in South Florida. And went to Gumbo Limbo after church with some friends and came home, and Piper just lethargic, wouldn't even let me pet him. He was just not himself at all whatsoever. And I noticed he hadn't gone to the bathroom. And so I took him, it was a Sunday afternoon after church, took him to emergency vet clinic. And they said that he needed to have his, like, a sex change type surgery. And because of this UTI, and apparently with male cats, it's very dangerous for them to get UTIs. And they basically have to do all this reconstructive stuff. I thought they were just going to put a catheter in and call it a day and charge me $100 and that was it. Nope. They slapped me with a bill of $1,800. And I think at that time I had like maybe $200 in my checking account, maybe. And they, said that we would do the surgery. And then after the surgery, may not even solve the problem, right? And we may have to do this surgery again and again and again and again. And it was devastating. It was so hard. And he was in so much pain. And I talked it over with a couple different people and tried to apply for a credit card with them because I didn't have an emergency fund. I only had $200 of cash. I didn't have a credit card of my own. And so I was going to do a credit card with the vet and 22% interest. 22% interest. When you are in a situation that's an emergency, when you're in a situation that is stressful, you don't want to have to then pay 20% interest on top of that. It's already stressful enough. You don't want to have to add on the financial stress of next month of then having to pay an extra $200 on a $1,000 bill. That is insane. And that is what these credit card companies are marketing. And that's what's happening here. Now, my definition of emergency fund is something that's going to help prevent you from going to debt if something happens. If some emergency happens, an emergency fund is there to save you from going into debt. How is a credit card saving you from going into debt when they're charging you interest, which causes debt? And this is something that I really, really, really urge you and young people to. So spread the word on this video, share it with a college student, share it with someone that is just starting their financial journey of having credit cards as emergency fund. No, now I'm not anti-credit card. We have credit cards, we use credit cards, we don't use debit cards, we only use credit cards, but we pay them off every single month and don't hold a balance. And we have learned our financial triggers so that we're not triggered by credit cards. So having a full emergency fund or having an emergency fund that you have access to that is not a credit card is really going to help to set yourself up for success. And it is really a huge financial stepping stone to bettering your finances. Now, how much do you have for an emergency fund? This is another topic of debate. I personally believe that you should have a minimum of 1 month's worth of expenses as an emergency fund. Now, I know people say $1,000. I personally have worked with people that make six figures and live paycheck to paycheck. I've worked with people that make over $200,000 and live paycheck to paycheck because their lifestyle matches their income. So you may have expenses of $600 a month. And then in that situation, I would say have an emergency fund starting out of $600 a month. Maybe your expenses are $1,000 a month. Have an emergency fund of $1,000. Maybe they're $5,000. Have an emergency fund of $5,000. Maybe they're $20,000. Maybe you live in Los Angeles and you have a high income and your expenses are $20,000 between your mortgage and your car payment and your grocery bills and all of your kids' school bills or whoever knows what, but it's $20,000, I would say have a emergency fund of minimum of $20,000, 1 month's worth of expenses. That way it flows depending on the situation. Personal finance is not one size fits all. Personal finance is fluid depending on the family, depending on the person. So start out with 1 month's worth of expenses. Then from there, you can grow to 3 to 6 months to a year's worth of expenses. But having a minimum of 1 month's worth of expenses is really going to set yourself up for success and be individualized to you and your situation. Now, where do you keep $1,000? I personally use CIT Bank. CIT Bank is my favorite online bank. I just did a video a couple weeks ago on the top savings accounts, and I found that CIT Bank was one of the top savings accounts. Right now, while I'm filming this, their interest on their savings builder account is 3.6%. Now, Bank of America, Wells Fargo is 0.01%. So traditional banks have overhead that they have to pay for. They have a building, they have labor costs, they have to keep the electricity on, all of that. So therefore, they have all these extra expenses, so they can't pass on that savings to you in your interest rates. Now, online-based banks, high-yield savings accounts banks, they don't have that overhead. They have some overhead, but not nearly as much as those traditional banks. So therefore, they can have a higher yield on their savings account. So I love CIT Bank. I have a full review on them. I have a full breakdown about them, and I'll have a link for you down below. I'll also have a link for you to sign up down below. And that is where we keep our savings account for our emergency fund. And it's really a great way that we know that the money's there. If we need it, we can pull it at any time. And it's not sitting in a mattress earning no money. It's not sitting in Wells Fargo earning no money. It is earning some money. It's not a lot, not as much as if it was in, an index fund. But hey, we're still earning a couple $100s a month on it because we have our sinking funds in there and our emergency fund in there. Now, sinking funds. What are sinking funds versus an emergency fund? They are both to help prevent you from going into debt. Now, sinking funds is just a fancy term for a savings account for specific items. So a sinking fund could be for vacations. It could be for Christmas. It could be for car repair. It could be for medical. And there's two different types of sinking funds. There's the one that has a indefinite amount of money, indefinite amount of when you're going to use it. Say, for example, medical. You don't know when something medical is going to come up, and you want to put $20 a month, $50 a month, $10 a month to medical, and that account just builds and builds and builds until you need it, and then when you need it, it's there. Or you may have Christmas. You know Christmas is coming in December, so you're going to say, okay, we need $1,200 for easy math for Christmas this year. And that covers gifts, that covers travel, that covers extra food costs because, we're hosting, that covers whatever it is, decorations, all of that, $1,200 for Christmas. So we're going to put $100 a month in our sinking fund in our CIT Bank for Christmas so that when Christmas comes, the money's there. So that's what a sinking fund is. It is going to be able to be there for you so that when you need it, it's there and it's for a specific amount. So please don't fall into the trap of credit cards or for emergency fund. Please share this with someone that has a credit card for an emergency fund or is thinking about doing it or in college, needs to start getting their money in order. And let's keep the conversation going. If you want to know my full review, how to use CIT Bank, all the details on CIT Bank, check out this video here. And if you want to know the 4 ways to pay off debt so that you can be successful in your debt payoff method, not only the debt snowball, but multiple other ways to pay off debt, check out this video here.